Hi guys, good morning and welcome to another exciting time out here on your favorite morning show, Every Woman on AtikuLive. My name is Tiana Walbrasi and I'm excited as usual to have you guys join me on another exciting episode. I have with me here my co-host IJ.
Hi guys, good morning. Welcome to another interesting episode of Every Woman.
Yeah, I know you guys are gonna have fun because today we'll be talking about something very like I said, every topic is interesting, but I'm really particular about this one, and that's the challenges of the transport system, or you could just call it challenges of the transportation industry in Nigeria. It's very important that we look at this, and of course, well, this is Every Woman, so whatever topic we're going to talk about, we will narrow it down to the woman, because at the end of the day, like we say usually, women get to bear the brunt at the end of the day. We get to face all of it. Everybody just dumps it on the nearest woman.
Yeah.
Right? And it's really important that we look at this transport industry. We haven't actually talked about it very much. We haven't talked about it
at all.
We
like
haven't
I
talked
just
about it at all.
Yeah.
And it's something that we really need to look at, because at the end of the day, when you find a woman who is a bus driver, there's this for me it's actually very beautiful to see a woman who is a commercial bus driver.
I don't know.
But it's not the normal place where a woman should be found.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I've seen a boat driver. Like,
we have boat drivers who are
yes, it was really interesting. The ride was clean. The ride was so smooth. We had interesting conversations. I mean, it was really nice. I enjoyed being driven by a woman. You know, having that. Me generally, when I enter a ride and it's a man, I'll probably not even talk, because I mean, I just want to just sit down and enjoy my ride and get to where I'm going. But when it's a woman, I'm interested. We're having conversations and we're chatting, and the difference is clear. As with everything that a woman does, you know, it's always different. You know, I noticed that the car, you know, was just, it felt really good.
Yeah, there was a connection. But at the end of the day, you realize that when you look at women who are bus drivers, especially commercial bus drivers, or women who are even taxi drivers,
keke drivers,
keke riders, they end up building a personality that is not theirs, that is not them, because they want to match up to their male counterparts. They want to be ras. They want to pick up the whole strength. Okay, I can do this. I also can bring value to the table. You can't actually intimidate me. You have to give me my own right as well as member of this association or community or something. And it just makes me realize one thing, or confirms one thing. A woman is a perfect multitasker, if there's a word like that. She can be a taxi driver, that mean macho woman out there. She gets back home, she's a mother, she's a wife, she's a sister, she's a cook, she's a chef, she's everything. So every job description or job role where she finds herself in, she delivers it excellently.
I feel like women find a way to take on whatever role that they need to take on in order to survive. And the bad thing, like when you said taking on the personas, I think the sad thing is that they have to do that. And it's sad because they adopt these personas. They become these persons that they don't necessarily want to be, because they need to be those persons to survive. If they don't do that, they'll be marginalized. They won't be taken seriously. So if a woman comes in and is trying to be logical and is trying to, because let's face it, when you're in those associations, you're in that place, you cannot be a logical person. There's always a lot of rowdiness, a lot of crazy, and you just have to be crazy too in order to get through. So you know how they have their numbers and lines and all that. People, obviously, Nigerians like to break rules and systems a lot. So when they break these protocols, this woman has to be able to ginger, you know, to just be able to shout and show the craze.
She will not be intimidated.
You understand? And you have to show that, you know, you prove to them that you are one of them. You can do this. You can do it as much as they can. And I feel like it's not necessary. We don't have to. Of course, they are forced to, but we don't necessarily have to.
Well, actually, when you were talking, you made mention of survival, and it's the key word there. It's the key for everything we're talking about, which is what? Poverty. Because at the end of the day, the woman needs to make ends meet.
Yeah.
Nigeria is a space right now where you cannot depend on the man alone. The man alone cannot be the one who is burdened or saddled with the responsibility to feed the home. And then at the end of the day, you realize that most of these homes, the women are the breadwinner. So she has to make sure she's doing everything possible to make money, to feed her family, to feed her husband, and most of the times, basically, maybe 50% out of the times, she's not just feeding her nuclear family, her extended family, the people who are depending on her. She needs to pay this, she needs to do this, she needs to do that. We'll just talk about a story about about Mrs. Oluwakemi Samuel, who is a fashion designer. She used to be a fashion designer, makes clothes, sells clothes, and everything fashion. And next thing, she just switched to becoming a bus driver. Yeah, she just actually switched to becoming a bus driver, and she has been ferrying passengers between Ojuore in Ogun State and Abulegba in Lagos. And according to her, it has been smooth for her.
Oh.
It has been smooth for her because at the end of the day, before she decided to sit behind the wheels to start a commercial bus driving job, she was managing her shop, and people were no longer patronizing her. She had low patronage. She couldn't feed her family. She couldn't send her kids to school. So she had to change profession. And what was the easiest profession to come through to focus on was bus transportation.
My problem with, I love the story. It's such an inspiring story, and I like that women are taking on this initiative to do things like this. Do you understand? That she's able to do this, able to sit there and stand on the ground and do stuff like this. My problem with this is, here's a woman ferrying people, across, taking people from Ogun State to Lagos in the kind of Nigeria that we are in today. What kind of protection does this woman have?
That's the challenge.
Because you cannot, for both the transporters and for the people being transported as women. I'm talking about women now. For the women being transported, for the women who are transporting people, what sort of security is in place to make sure that these women are protected? Who is there to make sure that this woman that is driving people from one place to another, that there's some sort of security for her? And then you come to the people who basically look at the welfare of transporters in Nigeria. You're looking at the National Union of Road Transport Workers, and then you're wondering how many women are part of this association. NURTW has never had a female president.
Yes, I was coming to that. Not just being members or part of the association, being at the helms of affairs, because at the end of the day, if you have a male president, at least there should be a female vice president
who understands
the plight of
what the women go through. And then we've been looking at the transporters themselves. Let's look at the transported. When we come to this now, let's look at the people that are actually being transported for women. What are the issues? Because nobody is raising these things. Nobody thinks about it to look at the issues that women go through as people that are being transported. And these issues arise because we as women don't have enough representatives that think about it. I mean, we have a minister of state for transport that's a
lady.
Yes, a woman that you think would, make. I've not seen that much contribution. You think that there will be a lot of contribution that are women centered. And I feel like if, like you said, we have the vice president of NURTW that was a woman, we'll have women-centered, changes, things that are really focused on women, that get women understand what the women are going through. My common challenge, and this is me, if they're going to travel, and let's look at transportation, because there's transportation by road, by water, by land, by air. All these mediums of transportation, how have women been carried along? How have you been taken into consideration in all of this?
True.
Now you
look
at
women who are pilots.
We do have. I would like to focus on the women that are actually even being transported, because as a woman now, you're looking at the fact that we have more men traveling by air than women. We have, I think, as 2016 there was 78% men, 22% women, but how much this disparity between men and women, it tells you obviously it's because of income
disparity between the men and the women.
This is what gives rise to
so
these numbers. Most of them cannot afford to fly by air.
No, I'm looking at another angle. Most of the women can actually afford to fly by air. What I mean, they are thinking about, if I have to pay my flight ticket, what happens to my children?
That means they can't afford it. They might have the money to pay for the flight, but they cannot afford it. They can't afford to fly by air. There's already an income disparity. They cannot afford to fly by air. So what next? They go by road. Which road? The one that you talked about?
Dilapidated. I was coming to that as infrastructure. And it's something that I've always been asking myself this question. Whose responsibility is it to actually fix the roads in Nigeria? Is it the responsibility of the federal government or the state government or the local government chairman? Because at the end of the day, when you have to make road trips in Nigeria, interstate road trips, and you're traveling from Abuja to, say, Asaba, or you're going to Calabar, you have gone through 2 states or 3 states or even 4 states in between. And for every state and every local government, there is a dilapidated road. So whose job?
I mean,
everybody
has their role to play. The federal government does, the state government does, because they have federal roads and the state roads. So the federal roads, obviously, this falls on the federal government. It is their job to make sure that federal roads are done.
Fixed.
For state government, however they choose to do it, it is the job of the state government to make sure that these roads are being done. And I recently traveled by road and whilst on the road, one of my companions on the journey said, a pregnant woman cannot even travel this December.
No, she can't.
And it hits me.
Yeah.
Because again, like you said, we bear the brunt of this. Because a man can travel. You can enter. Imagine a pregnant woman in that discomfort on a road trip because she cannot afford to fly by air, because she has to be on this road trip. And you can imagine the level of discomfort because you're entering gallops, you're coming out, everything is just...
You're making long travels, long trips. Because at the end of the day, when you look at traveling from Abuja to Lokoja, it's not supposed to take you more than an hour, 30 minutes.
You don't know.
But because of the bad road, you realize that you've engaged in long travels, longer hours on the road, on bad roads. And then let's look at convenience.
That's it for me. First of all, women are different from men. A man can get pressed on the road and easily just tell the driver to just park by the roadside and do their thing. As a woman, you can't do that. You're looking for where, and then you see women. I've seen women enter inside bushes that you don't know what is inside. You don't know what's inside, and you have to
insert to the bushes, and
you don't know who is in there. Nigeria is not safe. Crazy. You don't know who is in there. You're not even supposed. Like, it's just a lot, and I feel like small things. There are tiny things, little details that really matter. There are little things that could be taken into consideration to make sure that women, make this road trip. Okay, so you have to travel by road. So you have to travel by water. You have to travel however. Like, to make sure that this journey is as smooth as possible and that women are being taken into consideration. Because right now, it doesn't feel like women are. You know how you have the really big buses, the BRT buses, or the really big ones. And there's no form of convenience or anything. There's no consideration. And it's just sad because you want to pee, you want to ease yourself. Where do you go? These are small things that we can do. Or even something as simple as having public toilets, like, those mobile toilets situated, intermittently.
In Nigeria?
I'm talking about in Nigeria because for a country that is facing open defecation problems, this is something that also, solves another challenge for them. Recently, we had a woman that gave birth in a BRT bus in Lagos. Do you understand? So again, you have to take into consideration that women ply these routes, women take this travel by this means. What is being done
at the end of the day, the
for
bottom
these
line
women?
Of this is Nigeria need to adopt what we call maintenance culture. We lack it to the barest minimum. We don't have maintenance culture. Something can be made, and for a country that uses high substandard products, yes, for a country that uses high substandard products, you need to have maintenance. Because most of these roads, I was traveling by road years back, and I went to Kogi. There's this road where you have the steel company, Ajaokuta Steel, and the road on the bridge was really bad. We had to go through this road that looks like it's an underground road, and I asked questions. I was told that road has been there for how many years?
Yeah,
it has been there. That road is intact. There's no pothole. There's no bomb. There's nothing. That road is smooth. It has been there for years. And then you realize that the materials that were used to make those
but these are substandard qualities. That's what being used to do.
So when you know you are using substandard qualities to make a product, why don't you maintain it?
The person that did the substandard had no intention of maintaining it. I mean, that's why they're doing this one. It was supposed to be a shortcut, a cheap route, and a cheaper alternative that is going to spoil, so that somebody else is going to benefit from the failed system and get another contract to redo the roads.
It's really bad. Guys, we're going to go a very quick break. When we're right back, we'll take it up from where we step. Stay with us.
Growing up as a little boy, we were told every day that we were the leaders of tomorrow. Good roads, stable power supply, good education, job opportunities, political inclusion, better healthcare, reduction of the cost of living were some of the things we were promised in tomorrow. We were so excited about the hope we had been fed with about tomorrow. But days went by, Years went by, and tomorrow never came. Turned out there was never really a plan for tomorrow. It was all a lie to keep us in their mental slavery. Because with each day that goes by, I see my country being stripped of her glory. But we know better now. We are more aware now. It is time to take our country back from these hijackers who keep recycling themselves. If this tomorrow must come, we will have to create it ourselves. But this time, with someone we can trust. Someone who understands our pain. And so I call on every Nigerian youth. Come 2023, come out and vote. Because our vote is our power. When you vote, vote for a man we can trust. Vote for a breath of fresh air. Vote Atiku for president.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is Every Woman on AtikuLive, and today we're looking at the challenges of transportation in Nigeria, and we've likened it to women and see that women get to bear the brunt. Women have been on the receiving end from poor transportation, from poor infrastructure to insecurity, because these are major challenges that we're looking at: poor maintenance, poor availability and accessibility of this transportation to women. And then we've also looked at major women's actual involvement in transportation. I'm smiling because, like I said when we started the show, that it's really not usual
to
culturally. It's usually not usual to see women who are bus drivers. And then, like, we looked at Madam Oluwakemi Samuel's story that has 3 kids, who was once a fashion designer, had to switch job roles to becoming a bus driver, and she's been ferrying people from Ogun State to Lagos. It's not easy for a state like Lagos to start with, to have to juggle those kind of jobs with having to care for your children and coming back to because she still has a husband to take care of.
Where does she stay?
She stays in Lagos.
Okay, so she goes Lagos to Ogun, and then whatever it is, she has to come back to Lagos that day. So even if she has to get into Ogun
even
very
if she
late,
stays in Ogun, it's still the same thing.
What if she gets into Ogun State very late? She still has to find her way back to Lagos.
That is where the insecurity comes in. Like Aja was saying when we started the show, and you said, what happens to the women that have to be transported, or that actually does this transport at night? But I'm looking at it at another angle. Sometimes they don't even get passengers, because Nigerians will got to that level where, oh, it's a woman that's driving this car. I'm sorry, I cannot even enter.
There's a stereotype.
There's a stereotype.
Yeah.
Like, it's a lady that is driving. No, I'm not sure she will be able to do well. Meanwhile, we've seen that for me, for all the both rights that I have picked that are women, or that I have ordered for that are women, the difference is clear. You realize that the car is neater. You realize the AC is working. She smells good. She has a beautiful conversation with you, unlike the male counterpart. So at the end of the day, you realize that women do everything that they want to do orderly and well. And they are very careful drivers.
Another issue I really have with women, I don't know if I mentioned it, like another issue I have with women that are drivers, especially with ride services like Bolt and Uber. If you're a woman, especially if you're a married woman, and you have to do all of this transportation in the night, say around 10 p.m., you're going to go and drop off a man at his house. I don't, at that point, it doesn't care what you're doing or the kind of job. They're going to advise you to stop, because a lot of people are going to look at you as loose. They're going to look at you as being a loose person. And that's what our society does. That's the kind of culture that we have. They're going to discriminate against that and say, this one that the wife just drives around all day with picking men. That's what it's going to be. So these women are not even encouraged. There's a lot of discouragement from the society to do this kind of job outside the security that we've looked at, because, of course, you cannot pick strangers up in the night. Like, you cannot even walk up until, the time that the male counterparts will. If your male counterparts as drivers can walk up until 11, 12 a.m.,
do that.
You can't do it as a woman. You cannot even leave your family out. If you're not worried about safety, you're worried about your house, your family, your husband. What are they going to say? What are people going to say about you? He's not thinking about that. He's not thinking about being out and doing his job by 11, because he has to provide. He has to take care of the family, and he has to contribute his quota. But when it comes to the woman, there's always that. What is she doing? What kind of money is she making?
Why is she
outside by that time?
A taxi driver?
So there's a lot of discrimination, cultural discrimination. There's a lot of stereotyping for women
that need to be worked on.
Yeah.
Very importantly, it really needs to be worked on. And I think before we went on the break, we actually looked at convenience. What's the convenient? How convenient is it
for women to travel by road? Especially by road, because there are other means really.
But then even if, like you said before, went on the break, which is very important, even if the women are able to afford to travel for, it's not like the man who will just stand up and do stuff. So women we think, okay, if I have to pay 75,000, that's what we're experiencing right now, 80K, 100K to make an air trip. And
you still need to buy food for the family, because women face it, they're very, very calculative. They like to, what else can I do with this money? What am I have other responsibilities to take care of. I cannot do this. And already you're already earning less than less than the males. Like, but in Nigeria, women earn less than men. So a man can afford to pay for an 80,000 naira flight. In a similar role, a man occupying a similar role in Nigeria can afford to pay 100,000 naira for a flight and still have money to take care of some other things. As against a woman who might not be earning the same amount for the same job and has to manage whatever resources that she has. Already, you cannot even afford to. There's nothing like just because I have 100,000 naira does not mean I can afford to pay for a 100,000 naira flight. That doesn't mean so, because I have other things. I have other responsibilities that I have to consider.
Before we actually go forward to look at some of the possible solutions that can be suggested for some of the challenges to be looked at. Let's look at one other challenge, which is, for me, I call it the soul of all the challenges we talked about, and that's poverty. That's poverty, and we've said it times and times without number on this show that this administration have done so well in weaponizing poverty. Yes, they've done so well in weaponizing poverty, and we have over 43%, approximately 43% of Nigerians who are living below poverty line. We said it the other day, IJ, that Nigeria have been crowned. They've been given the chieftaincy title as the poverty headquarters.
Something we capital of the world. Took over from India.
So when you have people who are living, 43% of approximately 209 million persons in Nigeria, what is left? That means you have a significant number who cannot actually afford to feed.
Yeah. Nigerians, a lot of Nigerians are living below $1 a day.
They have to take up any opportunity, because Nigerians are not lazy people.
No.
Nigerians are not lazy people. You can't find a Nigerian who is, whether the person is doing a positive work or a negative work, the person is working. Because you cannot find a Nigerian who will just sit down and be comfortable to lazy about. Nigerians are not lazy people. So at the time that you push them, both the women, both the young girls, the young boys, you push them into taking up any available job opportunities. When do you have unemployment everywhere, scattered everywhere, plus high rates of unemployment, high rates of poverty, what do you expect from a state, from a citizenry like that? What do you expect? You expect that people take up anything that comes to them. If you even ask me to come and be a conductor tomorrow, as long as I'm going to send my kids to school, I'll be a conductor.
But the problem is that there's nothing wrong with I enjoy having these conversations with them. So I like the fact that women are taking up these traditionally male jobs or roles. Yeah. But we need to be put into consideration in terms of infrastructure.
Yes.
We need to take into consideration that women are in this sector. How can we accommodate the women that are working with us, the women that are with us? These are the things, like, you cannot say, because this is a traditionally male sector, who asked them to come? No, they are there. And you're welcoming. We need more women to take up these positions. And they have come there. You need to now make concessions and say, okay, so we've been running these things this way because so we didn't have any woman. But now we have women in this sector. We have women being involved. What can we do? How can we carry these women along? What are the challenges that they're facing? Again, this comes with representation. We don't have enough representation. We said we only have a minister of state for transportation, and we do not even have we've never had a president of a chairman of NURTW that was a woman. We've never had that. So these are the things that we want to see. We want to see women in positions where they can make decisions, especially in the transportation sector, because that's what we're talking about today. We need to see more women. I think with more women there, we need to begin to see changes that are centered on women. changes that affect women and changes that have taken women into consideration. There are some of the things that we hope to see.
When you suggest this kind of brilliant, when you make this kind of brilliant suggestion, also add, as an addendum, that these women should be given free hand to work, because when as a woman.
That's why we need a forward thinker. That's why we need somebody like Atiku to come on board. Because we need somebody who understands that, okay, everybody needs to be carried along, whether irrespective of your region or your gender, that you need to be carried along. I mean, this is why we need somebody like this who understands, as somebody who is not even in government. He has an advisor on gender issues that is a woman. He has people who advise him. He has, people that are already around him that are making sure. And then you can see the effect of these people around him that are making, you want to hear from the women, get a woman. You want to hear from the youth, get a youth. And you see that with each of these essays that he has, the essay on youth is a youth, the essay on women and gender affairs is a woman. What does it tell you? That this person is working with these people, their representatives, to make sure that these people, their voices are being heard. And then what does this translate to? You hear him say things like women and youth are going to get that 35 to 40% representation. It tells you that we have a voice as women, we have a voice as youth, that we are being listened to. And then you can expect that if somebody like Atiku Abubakar comes into power, that our voices as women will be amplified. That people like that, there are policies that are going to come in, that are going to come into place, that are going to reflect the challenges of the women, take them into consideration, and they will be addressed. And that's what we want, really. That's all that we want. They say they don't know what women want. That's what we want. We want to be heard.
When you were talking, because aside from all of that, a woman is, you won't take out the part of the emotional part from a woman. And that is where we have Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, because he has been able to support his wife. And we've seen the kind of achievement that she has made because of the support she got from her husband. I mean, the last time we were celebrating Haja Atiku Abubakar, we said the husband sent her to school.
Yes, it did.
She was being trained by her husband. So he had supported her emotionally, mentally, physically, financially, and otherwise for her to get to where she is. Look, we didn't complete Oluwakemi Samuel's story. We're looking at that woman's story who turned from being a fashion designer to a bus driver. She was being supported by her husband. The couple came together and like, okay, we need to do something to be able to sustain the income in this house. The husband supported her. They got a bus on hire purchase. They were paying 25,000 naira weekly. The wife was driving. The husband was driving. So there was support. So at the end of the day, when we find ourselves in male-dominated society like Nigeria,
society where men support their women, where men are not actively fighting the women or fighting the hindering the growth of the women.
That the women
Understand
are not fighting them.
Women are as much as a part of this society as the men are. The men need to support us. It's not a fight for equality, it's a fight for equity. We need the men to support us. We need the men to encourage women to take up position. It's like when women are trying to become councillors, or they're trying to become senators, it feels like, oh, they're dragging this position with me. They're not dragging it with you, because women need somebody to speak for them on that floor. We need a woman to speak, and one woman wants to represent us. You have to understand that for the good of the entire country, for the sake of development, you might set your ego aside, you might wait aside and say, let me give women an opportunity to speak for the fellow women. That's what we need more men to do, to continue to support. Somebody will say, why am I supporting a woman to go to House of Rep? Support her because you have a wife, you have a mother, you have a daughter. If you don't have a wife or a daughter, you most definitely
have a mother.
Had at some point a mother
and a sister.
Some people don't have it, but there's no way. If you're there to talk, you have a mother. Somebody gave birth to you. So you have to understand that somebody needs to talk for these women. And if you don't support it, who will?
All right, guys, this is the much we can take for today's episode. Until we see you next time, it's your favorite show here, Every Woman. Join us. Send us all your suggestions, what you think, your comments to the social media handles. And please interact with us on social media. And we'll be so excited to hear what you think, because it's important we get women talking. Yeah. It's important we get women actively involved in all of these sectors that are male-dominated. Until I see you tomorrow, have a beautiful day.